Hi guys, welcome back. I'm Tim Box, mind coach and remedial hypnotist, and in this video I want to teach you how to install a positive emotional anchor using a really simple, effective and repeatable process. That's right, you can do this yourself. You don't need any of us weird hypnotist characters waving our pocket watches at you, and you certainly don't need to know any NLP. The technique I'm going to show you is one I've used over the last few years a lot with clients, and I regularly teach on my workshops and in my practitioner trainings. So if you want to learn how to create and access positive emotions at will, then follow along with me for a few minutes. We're going to go through this together, so feel free to pause this video as and when you need to if you're doing it with me, or you can just watch and listen this first time through, because once you know this method, you won't need me to guide you. You'll be able to do this for yourself. I'm Tim Box, and this is how we install a positive emotional anchor. So I should say before we start that this video isn't going to hypnotize you or act as a substitute for any form of therapy. This is just a handy little way of using your imagination to positively influence the way you feel, think and respond. If you have stuff going on with you that you feel needs to be talked through, then I would always 100% recommend seeing a professional for that. There's absolutely no shame in seeking help. We all need help at times. But with that being said, our emotions are things that potentially we can get control of if we approach things in the right way. What we're going to learn today is how to utilize our imagination to influence our emotions, working on the concept that both imagination and emotion are functions of our subconscious. But enough chat, let's do this. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is decide how you want to feel. Now, I know that sounds like a pretty obvious starting point, but you'd be surprised how many people I see as clients who know very well how they don't want to feel, anxious, nervous, worried, but haven't really conceptualized how they want to feel. We very often get stuck in that loop of thinking we want to feel not anxious or not stressed. And then of course, we just end up focusing on the negative emotion we're trying to move away from and inevitably enhancing it. So set a positive target. You might be wanting to boost confidence or feel more motivated. Maybe you just want to be able to access a state of calm, clear thinking. You'll know best how you want to feel, but make sure it's a defined positive emotion. Once you've decided on that, I want you to grab a piece of paper and write it down in big, bold letters. Write it like an affirmation. Make it about you and in the present tense. So, for example, I am confident or I feel motivated. And if you want to make this specific to a particular situation, then include that in the sentence. So maybe I feel confident when I speak about myself, or I feel motivated and focused when I'm working. I really can't stress enough how valuable it is to be specific at this time. You're effectively asking your mind to provide you with a certain feeling. Don't fall short simply because you've put in a slightly vague request. Once you've written that down, then take that piece of paper and very carefully crush that into a ball, but not a tightly screwed up ball. Something about the size of an apple or an orange. The important thing is that you can hold it comfortably in one hand and that there's at least one good squeeze left in it. Now take that piece of paper in your dominant hand and hold it out in front of you. Make sure the arm is nice and relaxed with a slight bend in the elbow. We don't need to tense it up or lock it out in any way. We want it to feel comfortable. Now look at that piece of paper and how your hand is holding onto it. Take a mental picture of that image. Now, close your eyes, and with your eyes closed, keep looking at that picture in your mind. You awesome visualizers will be able to see the image clearly, I'm sure. If you're like me and not a great visualizer, just simply focus on the feeling of the paper in your hand and imagine it there in whatever way makes sense to you. Now, focus on the idea that's written on that paper, whether it be confidence, optimism, motivation, or any of the other positive emotions and ideas you might have expressed. Imagine now that the ball of paper in your hand is drawing all of that positive stuff into it, almost like it's soaking it up from the atmosphere. This might be coming from within you or maybe outside of you. But imagine that paper is now starting to fill up with all of that positive energy and emotion. Notice now the color of that positivity in your mind as it starts to shine brighter and brighter with each moment that passes. Perhaps you can also start to feel the paper buzzing and growing as it fills up with all of that positive stuff. Imagine that as the paper in your hand draws all the positivity into it, it now starts to rise up like it's becoming lighter than air. This stuff is literally uplifting, and it will continue to rise higher and higher as we go. Allow your arm to be drawn upwards with it as that feeling grows, getting stronger, brighter, and better. In fact, allow that paper to pull your arm up higher and higher into the air as it fills with all that positive energy and emotion. With every moment that passes, more and more positivity is drawn into it as your hand continues to rise up, with all this happening at the exact speed that's right for your mind and your process. Notice how each breath you breathe in seems to fuel this process, making everything stronger and brighter in your mind. At some point you will realize that everything you want and the way you want to feel is held in the palm of your hand, and all you have to do now is grab hold of it. At that exact moment, I want you to squeeze that paper tightly and imagine all of that positivity released and rushing into you through every nerve, muscle, and fiber of your being as it flows through you and fills you up completely. Take a deep breath in and feel all of that positivity. Keep squeezing your hand tightly shut around that paper and wring every last piece of that good stuff out of it and into you. Once you've got all of that into you, you can then throw that paper away. You don't need that anymore. Relax that hand now, and still with your eyes closed, imagine that feeling once again. Take a deep breath and squeeze that hand once again, feeling that even stronger this time, all the way through you, every fiber of your being. As you breathe out, release the hand. And then once more, breathe in and clench the fist tightly to fire all that positive emotion again. Now here's the thing, the more times you do this, the stronger that feeling becomes and the better that feels. The next time you want to access that feeling, remember the way you felt during this exercise and squeeze that fist tightly to fire that emotion once again. The way you want to feel is right there in your grasp, and every time you grab hold of it, that feeling will return. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video and got something from it. Keep practicing this and tell me how you got on with it in the comments below. I've got one last thing to add to this, but before I do that, I'm just going to say please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more mind management tools, tips and advice. So the fact is, our imagination holds the key to so much potential when it comes to getting control of our own emotional responses. We go through life often thinking that the way we feel is something that just happens to us, that we have no control over. But the truth is that how we feel is created by a part of our mind. Influencing and ultimately getting control of that part of us is the key to happiness. I'm Tim Box. Always remember, be kind to your mind, and I'll see you next time.